Are the Aberdeen fans out of patience with their side? It's the midway point of the biggest week of Celtic's season. And more misery for St Mirren. I'm Charlotte Cohen, and alongside Michael Grant and Cillian Sheridan, we're lifting the lid on the pressure cooker at Pittodrie and Parkhead. Welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Wednesday the 4th of March. And we've got a cracker to look forward to tonight.
Listen, we've got to fight and scrap for every point now. As I said, we're not in an ideal situation, but listen, the games are coming thick and fast. It's a huge week, Wednesday, then obviously the Cup at the weekend, so we need to pick them up.
The Dons fans aren't happy. Can they rediscover some form to get a result tonight? And can Celtic build on a second half comeback against Rangers and keep themselves in title contention?
Up comes Hatate, right footed, saved, the rebound, saved as well, but it's forced in! Celtic have the equaliser! Hatate denied twice, but eventually Celtic force it home!
How does Martin O'Neill approach tonight's match with a massive Cup Old Firm match to come on Sunday? And there was yet another defeat for St Mirren at Tannadice last night.
Scores! Sherrell George down to his left, and Amar Fata celebrates down in the corner flag. It is Dundee United 2, St Mirren 1.
We'll fill you in on everything you need to know right here.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
And alongside me to do all of that, Times Scottish Football correspondent Michael Grant. Michael, good morning. Are you any happier about the situation at Aberdeen than last time we spoke?
No, how could I be? No, the results have been a real struggle, and I think it's one win in 12 league games now, and they're in that awkward, horrible position where they're probably looking down rather than up in the league table, because top six is beyond them. It's not arithmetically beyond them, but it is realistically beyond them. And I think they're about 8 points clear of Kilmarnock with a game in hand, albeit the game in hand is against Celtic tonight. So yeah, it's been pretty grim, and obviously the search for a manager is not particularly closer to a resolution. We got another name thrown into the hat publicly yesterday when Dave Cormack talked about Sandro Schwarz, the German coach who's going to be a guest of the club at the game tonight. But no, to answer your question, Charlotte, it's been pretty bleak at Aberdeen at the moment, and the one flame that they still have really is that the Scottish Cup campaign is still there, and they're awaited on Fairmont in the quarter-final at the weekend. And
alongside us this morning, maybe a slightly less miserable Cillian Sheridan, former Celtic striker. Cillian, morning. Are you less miserable than Michael Grant?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, if he's an Aberdeen fan, then possibly, yeah. I don't know. They're in a strange position. I feel like their season's just petering out into nothing, really. They've like Michael's saying, they have the Scottish Cup, but realistically, I don't think they're probably confident that they can go and win it. I get they have the confidence of winning it last season, but I don't really see it this year. It's just been probably a disappointing season all round for them. And then in terms of Celtic coming to play them, you don't really know what Celtic team are going to show up. They get the first half from Rangers or the second half. So it could be potential to be an upset, but I'm not sure if I really see it.
Well, there's plenty to talk about, so let's start with Aberdeen, Michael, because last time we'd spoken, it was before the Scottish Cup win, so I thought that would have maybe cheered you up, but it doesn't seem like it has. I mean, just what do you make of the whole situation?
Well, I think the team is needing a manager, frankly. I mean, it's been whatever it is, 6, 7, 8 weeks, excuse me, since Jimmy Tilleen was sacked, and the results haven't really picked up under caretaker manager Peter Leaven so far. They don't create very much, Aberdeen. They're a kind of hard watch, to be honest with you. You know, they're not getting battered by teams. They're not, they're competitive in matches, but they just don't create and they don't score enough goals. It doesn't look like a team that makes things happen, And Yeah, so I mean, I think there's been various reasons and quite kind of unusual and complicated reasons why they've not been able to get the preferred candidate that they want managerially. They seem prepared to wait till the summer, if that's what it will take to get the man they want, which is quite a show of faith, really, in a candidate, because to go from January to May is a long time. And some supporters think that is kind of writing off the season. The club, Dave Cormack and others at the club say that's not the case. We're not writing off the season, but you can understand why fans do suspect that. And the Dunfermline game at the weekend is huge. I mean, this game is huge from a morale point of view. But I agree with Cillian. I struggle to see Aberdeen. I struggle to see them having the tools to win this match tonight. Especially when it means so much to Celtic. It's a must-win match for Celtic, and I suspect that they will win. Their record at Pittodrie is phenomenal, by the way. I don't think, from the top of my head, I don't think Aberdeen have beaten Celtic at Pittodrie since 2016, which is a pretty lamentable record for Aberdeen, but it does show you that Celtic tend to go up there and be in the right place mentally to get the job done.
Well, you spoke to Dave Cormack yesterday. I mean, would that ease any supporter concerns?
Well, I think he deserves credit for speaking, because he gets accused of lacking transparency, or the club gets accused of that, and the chairman has fronted up. The answers probably are not going to please a lot of supporters because there still isn't clarity on the manager. He's tried to explain why there's delays in it, but the bottom line is they still don't have a manager. The recruitment has been really poor for Aberdeen this season. I think they know that. One of the kind of interesting or significant developments yesterday was Darren Mowbray coming back as head of recruitment. Darren Mowbray is the coach is a scout or recruitment guy who found Bojan Majowski and Ramadani and Shaden Morris and Duke, and all these guys delivered for the club, and also delivered a transfer fee, a really significant one in Majowski's case. So I think they feel that Mowbray has been the best of a number of heads of recruitment they've had recently, and he's back. So that maybe looking forward to the summer and future windows might be encouraging. But for the here and now, they still look like a club, or a team at least, that is kind of drifting. And league-wise, it's a bit of a concern. That they've got a bit of a cushion on Kilmarnock and St Mirren for that kind of playoff place, but it's not that big a cushion. And they do need to get a couple of wins on the board. I think they'll be okay. I'll be honest. I think they do have enough players in the team that will dig out a result now and again. But I agree with Cillian's point that I just think the season is beginning to kind of peter out, certainly in the league.
I wonder, Cillian, Michael obviously talked there about potentially not getting a new manager till the summer. Do you think Peter Leaven has enough about him to continue to push these players and get them motivated until the end of the campaign?
I think he has to. I can't really see. I don't know if it's happened or if I've heard about an interim manager being sacked. Then is there like an interim manager? It'd be a very weird situation. I think I can kind of see both sides of it, where the club, like Michael's saying, are in a position where I don't think they're going to go down. They're not in that big of a danger. I think they will be okay. And it's disappointing as an Aberdeen fan to probably kind of know the rest of your season. There's not that much to look forward to. So I can see the club waiting until they get the right guy. But then on the other hand, it does put a lot of pressure on him. It's like, right, we've waited 6 months for this guy to come in. Now you need to deliver. You need to... There's the recruitment, new players will come in, players will leave, but ultimately he's going to have to work with what's there and improve on what they're giving right now. So it'll be interesting to see if the new head of recruitment has an influence on that, because at the minute Aberdeen seem to have been going into the same kind of market for the last few seasons. So it'll be interesting to see if a new manager comes in, if that changes along with the recruitment. But I think no matter who comes in, is going to have a a bit of work on their hands to probably improve morale and I think manage as well the expectations as well.
Yeah, Michael, talk to me about this new man that's coming to Pittodrie tonight, Sandro Schwartz. I saw New York Red Bulls and got horrible Wilfred Nancy flashbacks and MLS trauma. So, but I mean, what do you think Aberdeen are seeing in him?
Yeah, I mean, I think Aberdeen are quite excited by his interest in the job. His record, he was at Mainz, his German coach. He was at Mainz, then he managed at Dynamo Moscow, and then he came back, he managed Hertha Berlin, and then, as you say, New York Red Bulls in the MLS. Yeah, listen, we've had a pretty high-profile manager coming from the MLS mid-season and it bombing, let's be honest, in Wilfried Nancy at Celtic. And I think, according to Dave Cormack, that they are finding that a lot of coaches now are reluctant to come mid-season when there's a lot of pressure. It's a pretty intense environment in Scottish football and you're expected to deliver pretty quickly, you know. But anyway, yeah, Schwartz is I think he arrived in Aberdeen on Monday. He's been kind of around the club and he's going to be a guest at the game tonight. It's a slightly strange situation, really, because we think that Erik Horneland, the Norwegian coach, is still very much in the frame for the job. So you think it's unusual, really, to have another candidate as a kind of guest and be quite high profile. And Dave Cormack said that Schwartz was happy for his name to be kind of floated publicly in connection with the job. That normally suggests that guy's going to get it. I'm not sure it's quite as cut and dried in this case, you know. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's all been a bit unusual the way the Aberdeen headhunting thing has kind of played out, and we'll just need to wait and see whether Schwartz ends up emerging as the kind of preferred candidate in the end. After all,
I think he has to take it now. See, if Aberdeen are coming out publicly with him and showing him around, it's like if he doesn't, it looks as if he's come over and he just didn't fancy it or thought, no, that's actually not for me.
No.
If Aberdeen don't give it to him or if he doesn't accept it, I don't think it's a very good look for them to be so public about it all. I
know, because if it goes to Erik Horneland or somebody else, then you think, well, was he second choice? Was Schwartz the first choice? You know, it's just a bit unusual and complicated. And but listen, the cameras will be on Schwartz tonight, I guess, and there'll be that kind of assumption that he might be appointed sometime soon. But again, you know, there's talk that he might be one that would come in the summer if he comes rather than now. So, you know, in a sense, it would be kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit because you would still have all the issues at the moment with the team and the league results in particular have been pretty grim.
I mean, the supporters clearly aren't happy with what's going on, Cillian, but how much do you think that's affecting the players on the pitch?
Yeah, definitely. It'll add pressure to... It can be easier to play without pressure or without expectation. And then it's probably down to how players individually are, how they can handle situations like that. It's different to be playing under pressure if you're near the top of the table or you're challenging for stuff and there's that kind of pressure, but when it's actual like discontent and you can see like there's probably a bit of loss of patience there where it's gone on so long this season. So I would imagine just fans are probably fed up of it at this stage. You want to go and have an exciting end to the season or something to look forward to. And I think it probably will filter into a team. And it can be the hardest place to play. And sometimes if you're in a team that's low on confidence, every week things aren't changing. It just kind of builds every week. So I'd say players are probably feeling the same as some of the fans. Take out the Scottish Cup, they're probably looking to just get this season over and done with and try and start fresh. How many of them are going to be there next season to start fresh? I don't know, but it's probably not really a time for them to kind of go around and feel sorry for themselves.
Charlotte, the other thing about the supporters is that I think I know they've sold out their allocation for Dunfermline at 3,700. They wanted more tickets, so that to me underlines that the Scottish Cup is really what the supporters are engaging with now for the rest of the season. They're thinking, like, okay, let's see if we can get back to hand, and let's see how far we can push this defence of the cup sort of thing. So Celtic tonight is a big game. Of course it is from a morale point of view, but it's almost like the supporters are putting all their eggs in one basket, Scottish Cup, and see how far they can go.
I suppose they don't really have much choice with that, do they? Well, what about Celtic in what is a season-defining week? Cillian, I wonder if... do you think there was chat at the weekend that anything other than a win, Celtic were maybe out of this title race? They come from 2 goals behind, they get the point, but it kind of feels like tonight, anything other than a win is no bueno.
I think given the second half performance, there's probably a little bit more hope that Celtic can go and should go and win. I think if the game finished at half time, there's probably not the same confidence. I thought they were terrible the first half, and then Rangers were almost just as bad as Celtic were in the first half and the second half. Celtic raised it a bit, and you actually saw a bit of kind of attacking intent from them in the second half. So I think Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney will be telling them, look, it's the second half is the level. That's how Celtic need to be playing. And especially if it's not as if they're in a position where they can afford to have an off day or an off game. They're the chasing team. They're chasing Hearts. They need to make up ground on Hearts. And it doesn't look like Hearts are in the position they're in because of how they've been all season. I don't think they're going to falter too much. So I don't think Celtic really have any space or room to let up. So for them, it's a massive game in terms of actually chasing Hearts.
One of the other issues for Celtic, Michael, has been who starts, who is, I suppose, like the least bad out of a pretty bad bunch. I mean, Chris Sutton, I think, said it's really hard to pick a Celtic 11 because there's so many players that have been so off the pace. You look at the likes of Maeda, Hatate, but I mean, the squad is still expensive. They still have the quality to be beating teams like Aberdeen.
Yeah, listen, I mean, you saw the quality at the weekend when Hatate came off the bench and was really quite instrumental in turning the game around. And I thought Taneke was good as well. I mean, he's hot and cold, but I mean, I thought some of his runs were really good. But Hatate, especially, Hatate's not had a great season. He's looked disinterested at times, or he's looked like his head's somewhere else, But as you say, he can come in and show that quality. And you would expect that if he stays fit through tonight, that he'll start in the next Old Firm game this weekend because he was so instrumental in that one. So yeah, they do have quality and they do have match winners. I don't think they're anywhere near the level that they've been at for most of the last 20 odd years. I mean, I think that's obvious that the last 2-3 windows have been really poor from Celtic in terms of the quality that they've brought in. But there is a residual quality that's still there. And I don't know if it'll be enough, to be honest. I think tonight's result is going to be hugely significant because a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, Callum McGregor said we need to win every game now. Now, in the league, they've actually dropped 5 out of the last 6 points. They got beat by Hibs and then they drew with Rangers. But it kind of doesn't feel like that, does it? Because they went to Stuttgart and won, so that kind of turned morale a bit, and then they came back from the dead at Ibrox and they end up being the kind of feeling better about themselves than Rangers do from the same 2 each result. But tonight is the game in hand. So either they finish tonight 8 points behind Hearts, or they draw and it goes back to, what would that be, 7? I'm not great with or if they win, of course, it's 5. Now, stating the obvious here, but there's a hell of a difference between 8 and 5 at this point in the season because, as Cillian says, Hearts don't drop many points, and Hearts have got quite a generous, on paper, quite a generous looking set of fixtures running up to the split. So I think psychologically, if Celtic go up to Aberdeen tonight and win, and it comes back to 5 points, they go second in the league. They overtake Rangers tonight if they win. And 5 looks a whole lot more manageable than 8 at this point of the season. You know, you've still got a game expected to be at home to Hearts, don't they, post-split? You know, so 5 points with a home game against Hearts to come, that looks a whole lot different from 8 points, which is a lot with only 9 games left after tonight.
Yeah, I wonder, Cillian, you kind of touched on the first half performance against Rangers. Michael touched on the second half performance against Rangers as well. I wonder, how can a team be so bad in the first half of a game and come out in the second half and do what they did? And how do they then not fall back into the way they started the game against Rangers tonight?
I don't think they can. They can't afford to fall back into that again, really, between now and the end of the season. I think we've seen that this season, teams around about Celtic now are much better, and they can't afford to just show up and put performances in like that, or they will get beat. So I think Martin O'Neill will know, and a lot of the other things Celtic have, a lot of the players there have been and won the league and been successful, and that's probably what's got them to as far as they have been now. We see like how many late winners or equalisers and stuff they've had this season that has just kept them there within touching distance. And it's probably just a case of, I don't know, like when you're trying to think of who's going to start, who do you pick? It's almost probably at the stage of, well, we just need to pick our best players on paper and hope that they perform, and hope that you get Hitase performing the way he did in the second half instead of maybe up until now this season. But it's just a strange season where Celtic and Rangers are both as bad as each other, and then Hearts, everyone's talking about that, and then Hearts just keep on plugging away at the top. Like it's probably the best result for it all is Hearts.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Charlotte, as well, that how the reaction is different when the Old Firm drop points. You know, like when Celtic drop points, and this is echoing that point about they've been over the line before, 13 of the last 14 league titles, you know. But when Celtic drop points, it's like they're misfiring, or they're not what they were squad wise and so on. Whereas Rangers drop points and the questions are all about their mentality and their bottle and whether they can handle the pressure and so on, you know. And I guess that brings its own pressure, you know. But with Celtic's ability to handle the pressure, it isn't really questioned, you know. Maybe it should be, but then you think, well, they're entitled to the benefit of the doubt on that because they've done it so many times. Okay, a lot of the players have moved on, sort of thing, but they've still got a lot of players there that have won league titles. So they don't tend to get questioned on their mentality and their bottle. It's more like just individual performances being poor. Too many of them this season, really, from their perspective. But with Rangers, because it's happened for a number of seasons, their mentality and their bottle and their nerve and all of that stuff gets questioned immediately. You saw it on Sunday, you know. After the Old Firm game, Danny Rowe was having to say, no, it's not about mentality, you know. Same when they dropped points at Livingston the previous week. Yeah,
it's an interesting one. Well, you can listen to tonight's match live on Sportsound from 7 o'clock on Radio Scotland Extra. Well, finally, let's take a look back at last night at Tannadice. One of the big talking points, Marcus Fraser's own goal. Cillian, I don't know if you've seen it, but I mean, have you ever scored an own goal like that?
Not like that. No, I have. I think I've won maybe on my record, but no, it was bizarre. And when I first saw it, I thought, oh, it's clearly a foul. He must have been pushed, but I think I don't know if one of the angles you can just kind of see the hands almost just like brush him, and I don't know if that spooked him and he thinks there's something there, and just, I don't know, it's just as if he completely loses his bearings, and then just it's a comical one.
But I mean, a massive win, Michael, for Dundee United. Top six is maybe just out of their reach. I mean, it would take pretty much a miracle for them to go above Falkirk, but it's probably them safe now at least.
I would think so, yeah. You know, they're in a bizarrely, I mean, they're not that different in the league positions, but their season probably also now rests on the cup. I think they've got security in the league. You know, I can't see them going down. What are they, 4 points above Aberdeen? And we've already kind of indicated that we think Aberdeen will probably be okay. They're not going to catch Falkirk. You know, they're not going to win enough points to catch Falkirk. So they're away to Falkirk in the cup, I think, aren't they, at the weekend? So I know that there's a big emphasis around United to get back to Hampden. I think it's been a while since they've been in a semi or a final. I might be wrong on that, but I think it is a little while more than they want anyway. Only their second win of the year last night, you know, but a precious one. And yeah, you could tell from Jim Goodwin that he was pleased with the kind of competitiveness of his team and basically the consequences of the victory. You know, it pushes St Mirren further away from them when there was the danger of them kind of bunching up. And yeah, it gives them that security that they can now look to the cup tie with a bit of confidence.
Yeah, what about St Mirren, Cillian? Because look, it's starting to look like they could find themselves in big trouble here.
Yeah, no, I think they know they are. I think Stephen Robinson isn't under any other ideas that they're not in trouble. They are where they are. I think that cup win is firmly in the rear view mirror now, and they just seem to can't get any wins at the minute that they really, really need. Again, it's similar to a little bit last season where I think a lot of people knew St Johnstone were in trouble quite early on, and that's probably saved them a little bit as well, that Livingston are so far away, and Kilmarnock looked as if they were maybe going to make some sort of fight to stay up, but I think that injury to John Jules has probably put a big dent in their hopes, and that's probably saving St Mirren a little bit. I think they'll be okay, but it would be a shame for them to end the season like that after being so good for the last 2 or 3 seasons, and then you see they get the cup win, and that was kind of like, well, that's the reward for all the success, how well you've been. It would be a shame for the kind of all that to be forgotten about, and then everyone's just thinking, oh, well, they kind of chucked it after winning that. I don't know what the case is for it or the reason. I haven't really been in that situation myself before. If it's just hard to get going again after the high, it's probably difficult to have the high of your season almost nearly midway through your season, and then to go again. But maybe I think the way Stephen Robinson plays, which his players need to play with such intensity and high levels of fitness, that maybe it's hard to just do everything all after that.
Charlotte, David Curry made a good point on the radio last night, and that in itself is so unusual. I thought I was, you know. But, he said that St Mirren could be in the League Cup final, the Scottish Cup final, and the playoff final all in one season, and obviously it's right, you know, because the best form really, I think, has been in the League Cup campaign, that they obviously went through the tournament and won it, you know, and they're still in the Scottish Cup. And strange things happen, you know. A team can struggle in the league all season, but just get it together for cup ties, and maybe a fortunate draw might take them through, you know. But yeah, they could also still be in the playoff final, which would be, I mean, imagine trying to get your head around that, you know, because those games are at the same time, aren't they? I think, you know, it's usually just before the final, or the legs are either side of the final. I mean, wow, you know. But it's possible. You wouldn't entirely rule it out.
The way this season is going as well, it's like, it would not be the weirdest thing to happen.
The Scottish Cup final would always be the last game, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but they sometimes play the second leg of the playoffs after that. Yeah.
I kind of want to see that now.
I know, I'm thinking that. I'm like, can this happen? will it to happen. Well, that wasn't the only football last night. Scotland women were in World Cup qualifying action. They beat Luxembourg 5-0. Hat-trick for captain Caroline Weir. Be nice, Michael, to have two Scotland teams at World Cups in successive years, wouldn't it?
It'd be magic, yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, good. Obviously new coach for the women's team, so good.
Well, the Scots face Luxembourg at home on Saturday at 5 p.m, and that one is live on BBC Alba. Well, that is all we've got time for. Many thanks to Michael and Cillian, and thank you very much for listening. Remember, we are here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll catch you again tomorrow.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.